Start the meeting with pledge of allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know how big my mouth is. I'm kidding.
Okay, second item on the agenda is public comment. I got a couple things to say first before we start that. First of all, I'd like to welcome our newest member, Brian Copis. Was recently appointed to the Police Commission by the Board of Selectmen, so welcome. Thank you. Secondly, under public comment, this is a public comment session. It is not a public debate session. If the same comment that you're going to be making has been made several times before you, I'd appreciate it if you let someone else speak who might have a comment about a different topic. If public comment runs too long, I will end public comment because we have, as you can see, a rather large agenda for tonight. So, do we have any public comment? Yes. Can you stand and state your name, please?
Sure. I'm Dr. George Lynn. I'm a consulting psychologist. I worked with the Old Saybrook Public School System for many years and also now worked with the Old Saybrook Police Services. And I just want to say that in my experience working with the Old Saybrook Public School System, I had first met Michael Spira, and this is about 25 years ago, when he was an SRO at the Old Saybrook Middle School. And at that time, I had found him to be a very responsive, sincere, and dedicated person to the children of the middle school. And subsequent to that, as a consultant to the Old Saybrook Police Services, those traits have continued. I work with different police departments in different states, and my experience with Michael Spira has been nothing but someone who's committed to excellence. I do evaluations on police officer candidates, and as you can well imagine, there's a major responsibility in doing those evaluations in terms of the psychology of the officer candidates and a prediction of how they will be as police officers. And throughout the experience, Michael Spira has been responsive and supportive to the various requests I've made. Sometimes these officers need to be called back for reevaluation based on the test materials, and it's always been one of support because of the dedication to finding the best police officers to serve the community of Old Saybrook. I know, out of respect to the commission, I don't want to go on. I'm going to just end it at this point, but that's my public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening. South Dakota 36 Cricket Court, Old Saybrook, also a civil servant employee for a city. First, I'd like to start by thanking everybody on the commission for what they do. I feel that there are a few topics on tonight's agenda. That is what brought several people out here. I'd like to remind the public and everybody in this room our personal feelings and legal obligations and how things operate are two separate things. I'd also like to sit here and say that our police department provides a lot of services in this town. Go to the city where I work from, police services does not provide EMS, no first response, none of that. We send a fire truck. They go above and beyond, but everybody thinks 50, 60 cops. It doesn't work that way. You don't have 50 or 60 cops in this town. We have a lot of dedicated men and women. I'd like to talk about the police chief. I've known him since I was 18 years old. And some people are going to say, oh, you're jaded, you're friends. I can tell you right now, He and I have had more battles than most of you in this room. And the reason is he's passionate. You may not like him. You don't have to like him, what he does. Look at what the men and women of this police department do. And let's look at the situation at hand and how it was brought forth. Technically, have we given due process? Let's look at the situation. Let's look at what's going on. Let's look at how it's being handled. And I say sometimes it's harder to choke it down and swallow and say, you know what, I don't like him. It's not being handled the right way. Please support the police department, the police chief. And is the fire chief here? I have to say something about the fire chief. Love the fire department, and the same goes for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thanks. Colin Heffernan, live in town. I'm glad he brought up process. One of the things that I think is on the agenda tonight is probably the complaint that was brought by the Saybrook Democratic Town Committee regarding the police chief. I think that's what we're all sort of dancing around. I'm not here to advocate personally for any outcome with what this police commission decides to do. I agree that due process is important and that it should be followed, and I think that an appropriate investigation of the complaint is what's warranted here. One of the things that I do want to bring to this commission's attention, and I actually have some handouts from the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association or the Connecticut Association of Police Chiefs, I forget which order it goes in, is a overview of titled "The Police Chief and Just Cause Under Connecticut Law." It's a good breakdown about what exactly just cause for action is under Connecticut law and what it isn't under Connecticut law. I think there is a bit of misinformation going around that just cause somehow is a barrier to any action by this commission. That isn't true. This commission has the responsibility under both our charter and under state statute to manage and supervise the police department. It has a wide berth with regard to what authority it may choose to enact. So I'd like to distribute this to the members of the commission and anyone else. I think I have 12 copies, anyone who's interested, of what exactly the legal requirements are under Connecticut statutory law and under our case law as to what just cause is, what just cause isn't, and what the commission's responsibilities and powers are with regard to the administrative discipline of a police chief. Thanks.
Any other public comment?
Yeah. My name's Dave Tizzy. I've lived in this town for 68 years. I helped start the old Saybrook ambulance years ago. I watched Mike grow up. Sometimes he and I get at odds and stuff about things like that, but I have to tell you something. When the hurricane hit this town and buildings were floating away, he was prepared. He had the truck there. He had places where people could plug in their phones. The other towns were coming here to get water because we had the whole situation taken care of. That's what he does. That's what people like him do. They follow details and they do it. Because of our personal dislikes, doesn't mean that he's not doing a good job. And we all want to get on his butt because maybe he didn't do something that you like. And you don't think that he is going to leave his job because of a boat or anything else. You got to be, you're really backed up somewhere. So I'd like to say that I think he does a great job. I mean, I've been here all my life and I've done a lot of stuff. He does a good job.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Steve Bueller, I live here in town, 2 Willowbrook Farm Road. I'm actually here to just state my support of the chief and the department as a whole. I was here on August 4th, which was the last meeting where some issues were discussed, but the main reason for that one was an executive session to meet the candidates that were here. There were candidates for promotion, candidates for the SRO positions, and candidates to be brought on as new recruit police officers to go through the training academy. I took it upon myself during that recruit time to speak with the candidates as they waited outside to be called in and be grilled by the board here. I can't tell you how great each candidate that I spoke with was. Knowledgeable, very respectful, especially the new recruits, the ones that want to come here and go to the academy. Sir, it's one of the things I do not like being called sir. I tell everybody to not call me sir. That was my father, not me. But they are very respectful to a fault. And I think it reflects my interaction with the candidates that were outside in the hallway. on the chief and his officers, his senior officers that help him go through this process, and the board as a whole. They were great people. Our police department is filled with great people that do their job, whether we support them or not. They show up, they work hard. I unfortunately have had to rely on them several times for issues in my family, and they're always there. They're always the first ones there. So, whatever axe somebody has to grind with anybody, I don't really care. I'm here to support the department that supports me.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Question.
Okay? Certainly.
I'm wondering if everybody here knows something that I don't. Because I've got here on my possible anticipated executive session on the agenda, and I'm hearing, you know, everybody attesting to Chief Spear's qualities, but I don't know of anything that we're going to discuss. And I think to list it as possibly anticipated executive session for the police commissioners to see, yet apparently everybody else seems to know that we're going to be, or thinks what they know, that we're doing a disciplinary hearing or something like that. I'm asking you, Mr. Chairman, what is that?
I thought it had been communicated that this was the meeting in which we were going to discuss the letter from the Democratic Town Committee. No, I
Must have missed that.
thought that was rather clear in our conversations and other meetings, so.
Okay.
We have some objection to that?
No, if it was discussed and it went over me, then that's fine.
I've got a question. Which other meetings have there been?
Public comments.
Public comment's already closed, sir. We have another public comment at the end of the meeting if you like. Okay, we have minutes to approve.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of April 27th.
Second.
Any further discussion, corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We had a special meeting on August 4th. We need to deal with and hopefully approve the minutes from that meeting.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion, corrections? Hearing none, then we have a vote to approve the minutes of August 4th, please. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I abstain, I wasn't there.
Okay. The clerk will note that, please. Item number 4 is election of a vice chairman. As everyone, I assume at the table, knows that the former vice chairman, Peter Connolly, resigned. So at the current time, we do not have a vice chairman. Basically, the appointment of whomever tonight will be for a 2-meeting term, as the elections will be in November. And at that point, we'll be entertaining the process to pick a chairman, vice chairman, and secretary at our first meeting after the election. So, do we have any motions?
I'd like to make a motion that Ernie Sparrow become the vice chairman. He has so much experience and knowledge to share with all of us, and I think that's appropriate.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Congratulations, Ernie.
Thank you.
Going back in time, huh?
Did you give him a chance to say no?
No. No. He doesn't get that, all right, no. And I'll turn to the chief now for executive reports, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. The first thing we'll go through is the account summaries in front of you and in your packets. Should be the expenses and supplies and contractual summary of where we are to date. The only items that I will draw your attention to is obviously the gasoline is 97% expended. That's because we have a contract through the First Selectman's office to pre-purchase our gasoline, so that invoice has been settled. Postage seems a little bit much for the year, 34% already expended, which actually means we spent $857, so 34% might sound a little bit much, but that's because we pay our initial yearly lease on our postage meter.
So Chief, on the gas, does that mean that you paid for it up front, but there's enough to carry it through the end of the budget year?
We hope so. Yeah, so
What's the expectation?
the First Selectman's office actually negotiates how many gallons is purchased and at what rate for the entire town. Public Works, things like the Board of Education handles the fuel pricing for their vehicles and the bus fleet, although that's through a contract. So we hope we will get through the year with that, but sometimes we buy a little bit less, which is why there's money left over to purchase these May. Hearing no other questions, Mr. Chairman, I can go right on to the report of balances.
Question about vehicle maintenance. Seems a little high for this point in the year. Is it having difficulties, or it
No,
just happen to be things all landed early in the year? Or?
These are some things that we didn't do at the end of last fiscal year because of the budget overruns that we were experiencing due to our personnel difficulties. So there were some maintenance that I could defer into the new fiscal year when funds were available.
Okay, thank you.
If you'd like, I can go to the report of the balances to the Commission.
Just the phone system, I assume that's some sort of contractual that we paid upfront type of thing?
Correct, yes, due on July 1st.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have questions about the individual line items in the account summary and expenses and supplies? Okay, go right ahead, sir.
Okay, so the asset forfeiture balance is $23,514.56. The police administrative fund, $37,189.64. The traffic safety fund or driver safety fund, $27,048.63. The law enforcement fund remains at law enforcement, $17,207.53. The Old Saybrook Police Fund remains at $320. The Police Explorer Fund, $5,392.60. And hopefully you've all received your Lions Club phone book. The Lions Club is our main sponsor of our Police Explorer program, very successful program. And this year, the club unanimously elected to have us placed on the front cover. So we're very, very pleased with that. We're hoping that that continues. Maybe next year's front cover will be the Explorers in front of the new building, which would be great. And the Police Canine Fund is at $1,812.93.
Questions? Keep on going?
Sure, if that's okay with you, sir.
Yep.
So I just want to update the commission on the various appointments that you made at the last meeting, so everyone knows where we are. So again, thank you very much for all the action that you took last meeting. It was very beneficial to the operational department. Allison Tanner, as you know, worked midnights that night. So she is back to full-time employment. She's doing very well, so we appreciate there. Obviously, no field training time. She was already a bona fide Old Saybrook police officer. She's doing very well in the midnight tour, and we're pleased to have her on board. Sergeant Hackett was formally promoted on August 10th on a small ceremony in our new training room. First one ever to get sworn in our new training room. His family was there, his wife pinned on his badge, and his father was able to make it from out of state to be present for that. So he's doing very well. He was actually assigned to Master Sergeant Rankin for the past month to go through the department's formalized sergeant training program. So something that we instituted a couple years ago when we found our sergeants being promoted kind of needed their own version of field training, if you will. So they go through a standardized matrix, things that are demonstrated, watched, understood, things to that effect. He works side by side with tenured sergeants for about, 18, 19 shifts. He's been blessed to be on his own now and is supervising the midnight shift coming up. So we're very pleased with him. We are still waiting for academy appointment dates for Solomon Hardy and Stephanie Millardo. We received a letter from the police academy that we did have a seat in the October class. We're very excited, so we called the police academy to thank them for moving us up on their waiting list. And they said we should never have received that letter because they have not gone to their waiting list yet. So we're still in a holding pattern. Hopefully we'll hear in the next couple of weeks that we have one, if not both of those seats. The two SROs that you hired, Steve Crowley and Lawrence Rooney, they'll be coming on board somewhere between the beginning and the middle of September. Obviously, they finished our hiring process. Now they have to give notice. There's certain retirement requirements for each of their individual departments. So hopefully, before then, they can come in dribs and drabs and start beginning their training, or at least go through our version of firearms qualification. But we hope to have them on full-time, if you will, although part-time employees, doing their training at the end of, middle to the end of September, and then into their SRO responsibilities by the beginning of October. I have briefed the superintendent and her district leadership team about the appointment of the two new SROs, what schools they will most likely be going to. We're going to schedule time for each SRO to meet with their principal at the beginning of the year, and we have a transition program and an SRO training program that they will actually go through, working with some of the former SROs in the building, showing them the ropes, telling them what's important, and getting them started off on the right track. And then finally, with dispatcher Millardo eventually leaving, whenever her academy appointment date is, we'll have the need to backfill a full-time dispatcher position. We have probably going to be an internal process like we've done before. There are some per diem dispatchers that are interested in going full-time, per diem dispatchers that are in good standing, that we've watched work, and we know their work product. So we'll be instituting that and backfilling them as per diem dispatchers to keep that cadre healthy, which of course saves the town money when replacing dispatchers when they're out sick or on vacation or other personal leave. Any questions on any of the appointment updates? Okay, then hearing none, Mr. Chairman, if I can go on to the facility transition.
Sure.
So last meeting, I reported to the commission some of the warranty items that need to be addressed in our building. There has been no forward progress yet on any of those warranty items, other than they are continuing the investigation. So in the detention area and evidence area and fleet storage, there's the failure of the epoxy floor. They are still investigating which subcontractor they're going to find at fault for that issue. And then hopefully that subcontractor accepts fault and then would be financially responsible for closing down detention, relocating detention, sandblasting the floor, removing all the existing paint and epoxy, redoing the epoxy, allowing it to cure, and then moving us back in. And that, of course, involves our evidence room. They are still trying to assign responsibility for the reason on why, where all the raised access flooring is, why the floor buckles every 3 to 4 inches, has like a 2.5 or 3 inch buckle in the plywood. So they've ripped up one of the rooms, and they've sent the plywood out to the plywood manufacturer to see if they can figure out if the plywood delaminated or what the actual cause of that issue is. The HVAC team continues to work on our humidity problems. We thought that there was some headway, but there was not. We actually had periods where it was actually raining from the vents at various points inside the building. So they came out and looked at that to try to figure out what that issue is. There is a plan that's being proposed to add additional equipment to the rooftop HVAC units to make them more responsive, I guess, to the facility's needs. So we're waiting to see when the construction company approves that. They did do some work on the access road from our rear lot to the communications compound. However, the roadway, which was initially not found satisfactory by the engineer, it seems as if the work that was done was also not found to be satisfactory, certainly to myself and now the engineer. So they'll be coming out for a 3rd or 4th time now to look at that. So again, fantastic facility. We love the location. It's very safe. It's well organized. It's safe for the personnel. It's safe for the people. But we, again, are not yet ready to schedule an open house due to all these significant warranty repairs that have to be done. I'm very optimistic that everything is going to be fixed. And I can tell you, and I know the chairman is included in many of my emails, I continue to strive to ensure that all parties involved understand that this was a significant amount of money that was paid by our taxpayers, and that the taxpayers deserve to get every single thing that was intended for them to receive in the facility. So we will continue to work with the construction company to make sure that that happens.
Chief, is the building committee reconvened to get together to support you through this? Because you're the chief of police, not a general contractor.
Thank you. I've learned a lot about construction, too much to the lieutenant's liking. Still not allowed to use power tools. There has not been a building committee meeting for a while. And we've asked for one, and I think there'll be one probably in the future.
Thank you.
Are you working through the GC with all these issues, or?
So there's no general contractor. It was a design build format. So the contractor and the architect and the engineer are all on the same team. So there's no check and balance internally, if you will. So there's no like clerk of the works watching the job. Sadly, that's become the lieutenant and I over the last year and a half, in addition to obviously running the day-to-day operations. So I'm concerned about relocating evidence and relocating detention. It's going to have to happen. We have a plan in place. The plan is to move back to 6 Custom Drive. As reported last month, the landlords are very amenable to that. There are not many buildings in Saybrook that have already constructed cells. That happens to be. So we've looked into the technology. I actually have an action plan that we can put in place. The minute that the Downs Construction Company says, we plan on starting on this day to do the flooring, it'll take us about 3 weeks to stand up that facility so that we can receive and detain prisoners.
Has the first selectman been asked to see if he can get the building committee together so that you're not stuck with having to do this?
Yes, I've asked him, and I believe that he's planning on convening a meeting in the next couple weeks or so. I believe it's important to have a building committee meeting so that we can be transparent with the warranty issues. I don't think it's a bad thing. Obviously, it's not preferred. There are warranty issues. Keyword there is warranty. So I think they're going to be fixed. There's a process. The process is taking longer than I wish it would, but we're looking for a contractor that is willing to raise his hand and say, I'll take the hit for this. So there's a lot of independent labs involved and testing agencies, and no one has accepted fault on any of the issues yet. But I'm confident that, as I like to call it, Team Saybrook will continue to work hard for the taxpayer and for the department to make sure that we get everything we were supposed to get per specifications. One of the things that we recently caught was they wanted to try to amend how we were doing things, and I was pretty steadfast in saying, no, this was the bid document, this is what went out, these are the expectations. So the pavement that has failed around the building, they actually came back with a plan now. We're waiting for them to come back and reheat areas of the asphalt, re-roll, add material in certain places. So a lot of warranty work, but I think it's going to be all fine in the end.
Now, you said that we have to move people for the cells in this. Why won't we go to the state police to use their cells so that we don't have to have somebody sitting there?
Right, so it's a great question. So it gets back to, and you'll appreciate this from being a member of the department, it'd be double the work for the patrol officers. So not only will we have a patrol officer out of town processing the prisoner, our records management system is proprietary to us. So they have to process the prisoner and then technically reprocess the prisoner on our computer system using our software, so all the correct data is in the records management system. The automatic fingerprint system information would correspond, our UAR number, Unified Crime Report number, would match with our station rather than the state police. So it sounds like it's a quick, easy thing to do, but it's not as easy as it can be. And then there's a space issue where both the state police and Clinton oftentimes fill their cells like we used to. So I think that this is the most operationally sound procedure.
So we're going to move all of our stuff to the other facility to process them, or processing there and then just move them?
No, so the entire area of our building, so the epoxy floor is in all the holding rooms, all the detention cells, the processing area, a prisoner interview area, the entire evidence area, so temporary evidence that an officer would lock in, the evidence lab and evidence storage, all that has the same floor, and we've seen failure in all that floor. So evidence we're gonna hopefully keep on site somewhere, whether that's gonna be through climate-controlled trailers that the construction company would bring in and keep on our property so we can maintain control of that. And detention would only have to be staffed when we were processing someone. So, for example, someone gets arrested and they're not going to stay overnight, the police officer would just go there as the processing facility. Would be on camera that our dispatchers could see. They'd process the prisoner and release them from that facility. If someone had to stay overnight, we'd be looking to fill cell watching positions, again, through camera, but I want someone in the facility. And we try to do that with the lowest cost employee. So hopefully that'll be a dispatcher or another civilian that we can do that would have radio contact with officers that can come in. No different than a midnight shift when there's a dispatcher in the building and the officers are on the road.
Okay. We're now up to number 6, which is possible anticipated executive session. Could I have a
Bob?
motion to go into executive session?
Excuse me, Bob. Could I make a comment with regard to that? Just so that there's no question, for the record, the issue is to review the contents of the petition that was filed with the commission on behalf of the Democratic Town Committee. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. You had mentioned that was it. So the record does say that. Now, with regard to going into executive session, merely because you have a lawyer there doesn't give you the excuse of doing so. And your note in there about going in, I think should be amended. The reason for going into executive session, I believe, is rule number 1 of your rules with regard to personnel issues. And I'll read that so that there's no question about what you're voting on going into executive session.
Okay.
And the basis for it. And that, this is a paraphrase of the state statute with regard to executive session. And it's entitled Discussion Concerning the Appointment, Employment, Performance, Evaluation, Health, or Dismissal of a police officer or other employees over whom the police commission by law has jurisdiction, provided that such individual may require that discussion to be held in open session. As you know, the complaint was regarding the chief's behavior, so he has a right that we not go into executive session if we choose to do so. And that should go on the record. Now, there's nothing that prevents the commission from inviting the chief and his counsel into the executive session if you so choose to do so. But he has the right to require it to be an open session, regardless of your vote.
Okay, he has expressed his decision to me, but do you wish to have this in open session or in executive session?
No, for the record, the chairman sent me a letter telling me that this would be on the agenda, and I was elected to have the matter be done in executive session.
Okay.
And then I will make a motion that we adjourn to executive session, inviting Labor Attorney Kale and Town Attorney Cronin to join us.
Okay.
One question.
Certainly.
As to why are we going into executive session to discuss a personnel matter when we haven't even, as a commission, discussed this?
That's so we can't discuss.
So we can discuss it
Because we can't
because
discuss it.
we can't discuss personnel issues in an open meeting.
Then should we, as a commission, request from the chief before we go into executive session a written report about the incident? So that we would have something that we can then discuss? Because technically, we don't know what happened. I mean, aside from what everybody says and what everybody does, we don't have a report or an official record of what took place, other than somebody's complaint that they brought in.
But these are the kinds of things we should be discussing in executive session, and I think
But
we
we
could certainly
could-
adjourn from executive session, request anything we wish from the chief, but anything regarding personnel, my experience as a longtime town employee, that's my career, we should have zero conversation about personnel issues except in executive session.
But we could ask for that report.
We could, if the commission decides that that's what they want, and if and we could ask for that down the road, but I think Number one, we need to go into executive session. We have the town's labor attorney and the police commission / town attorney here to help guide us, to make sure that we are doing everything in a proper legal manner, not only from the town's perspective, but making sure that, that the chief certainly has constitutional rights. So we have to make sure that what we're doing is in a proper legal manner, and that's why I've asked for the two attorneys to come in with us to give us some guidance. We
Just seems like we're
should we all-
jumping a step ahead of time.
I don't believe we are.
So with all due respect, we're not playing. So there was a motion, I made the motion. Could we have a second? for
I
that?
second the motion.
Okay, so now you could ask, but I would say let's move the question at this point, because I'm feeling uncomfortable having this kind of conversation because it's not appropriate. So I moved,
Well, I think
the
that these
question.
questions are things that we can discuss
Chairman, you
during.
have to call for a vote, I moved the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So noted. We will go into
Mr. Chairman, my name is Ralph Monaco. I represent Chief Spira, and I've been silent because I've been waiting to hear what the allegations are against him, and I've heard none. So I'm not really sure, and I agree with Commissioner Stewart that at least I think anyone who's been charged with something should know what they're charged with.
I don't believe anyone's been charged with anything yet. We
Well,
have a
then-
letter from the Democratic Town Committee that makes certain allegations, and I think that we need to go into executive session to discuss how we're going to handle that. We may not resolve this tonight. We may have to come back into regular session and ask for a report of something, or, I don't know, but I don't feel comfortable speaking about personnel issues in a public forum. It's highly irregular, and I'm not sure if it's legal. You would know better than I, but
I'm not suggesting that. Mr. Chairman, I'm suggesting that if there are facts that the commission is going to discuss beyond what's been discussed in this public forum, I think those need to be put on the table, and there should not be facts that are brought up for the first time in an executive session. And as I said, I have not heard any
the
facts.
only thing that we're going to discuss is this letter that has come to us. The chief has seen the letter, all the commissioners have seen the letter. I'm sure that 3/4 of the people out there in the audience have seen this letter. So we are not.
Why don't you read the letter?
Well, I'm not.
Point of order, let the commissioner speak.
Point of order. We have voted to go into executive session. We're going into executive session now. Thank you.
Are you going to come back in the public?
We have to come back into public session. Yeah.
Where do you go?
I have one crazy thing.
Re-adjourn the regular meeting at 8:25, please. We have met in executive session. We have had legal advice. Is there any motions that someone would like to make concerning the meeting we just had?
I would like to make a motion that we as a police commission request from Chief Spira a written report of the incident as spoken to by council.
Is there a second? Not hearing any. Are there any other motions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. After consultation with legal counsel, I move that the police commission take no further action with regard to the letter from Mr. Ladd to you, Chairman Finch, which was received by the police commission on May 21st, 2015.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the second public comment of the evening. I would once again ask that you keep your comments brief. This is a comment session. It is not a debate session. And once again, if your sentiments have already been spoken by several other people ahead of you, if you could please let others that may have comments on other things to do with the police commission have an opportunity to speak. Do we have any comments from the public? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I just would like to thank the commission on behalf of Chief Spira and just reiterate that the purpose of the statute that requires that there be just cause against the police chief is so that police chiefs do exactly what he did here, which is to speak out on matters of public concern and public safety. If police chiefs are concerned about political repercussions, we all live in a much more dangerous society. We don't want to live in that kind of society. We want our chief law enforcement officials to step up, speak out, even when we disagree with them. We want to hear from them when they think that public safety is endangered. That's the reason for the statute. The legislative history bears that out, and we thank the commission for its deliberations tonight.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a public comment? Yes.
Who's paying for the move? Where's that funding coming from when we have the contractors taking care of that?
That's in discussion with the contractors at the moment.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Hearing none, we'll move on. Comments from the chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just two things. One, again, welcome, Commissioner. We have a new contact list that if we can pass out, if there's any changes to that, if you just email either myself or Jen, then we'll email you the final copy if there happen to be any changes. And then late today, upon my return to the office, I sadly received Detective Sergeant Heine's letter of retirement, which I will pass out to you. As you know, Detective Sergeant Heine has had a very decorated career with the Department of Police Services for the past 38 years. Some personal issues will prevent his return to active duty. And I think that his letter, while short, is very succinct, which is the way Detective Sergeant Heine is. At probably a future meeting, we'll bring you some highlights to his career that I would like the commission to recognize and honor. That'll be my recommendation to the commission. Again, a highly decorated officer, 38 years, shot in the head in the line of duty in 2005, and came back and returned to service. Quite frankly, responsible for field training many of our veteran officers, some of which have retired, including Lieutenant Stewart, was assigned to Detective Sergeant Heine when he first became a police officer at age 18. Gene has done a phenomenal job. He will be sorely missed. In his capacity as Detective Sergeant, he's been in charge of the Criminal Investigations Division for over a decade and a half, and responsible for overseeing very significant and serious investigations concerning serious crimes that have occurred within our town. So, sorely missed. We'll bring you some more information about that, as well as next meeting, my plans on how I will address the structure change inside the Criminal Investigation Division, much of which has been discussed already at a prior meeting. And that's it.
Okay. Comments and/or concerns from commissioners? No. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you all for coming.